Okay, I hope you're ready for this week's insane news because it is so crazy. Here's someone who we haven't seen for a while. My wife is back. Kristen, do you love the crazy news?
Love the crazy news. When you're married to someone like Neil, there's really not much you can do about it. You get it every day. So
well, there you go. All right, Kristen's going to walk on. I'm going to bring you up to speed with everything going on right now. You are not going to believe what has just happened, especially in France. So the Telegram CEO then has now been charged. Yes, after 4 days of detention, he's now been charged. And I've got to tell you the counts that he's been charged on because it's absolutely unbelievable. So this is the statement from the French then. The Russian, they love that, Telegram founder Pavel Durov has been charged in Paris. These are the 6 illegal activities that he's being charged for. Firstly, it says for refusing to cooperate with French law enforcement to give access to basically the app and all of our data. Let's be honest, that's what it is. So he's facing 10 years in prison, a €500,000 fine, which he probably laughed at, to be honest. I mean, €500,000 to someone that's worth somewhere between 10 and 16 billion is like, you know, you going out and buying a coffee probably. So it's not a big deal to him, but 10 years in prison. And these charges are unbelievable. They said he's complicit and administrative in drug trafficking, child, you know what, distribution, money laundering, extremist activities, or showing support to a terrorist group or the facilitation of a terrorist group. Now, in breaking news, this has just come out as well, they've also added charges of extreme violence and battery to all of this now as well. They said that he's accused of actions against a minor who was under his care and supervision, who was known to him by the child's mother. I mean, whenever you get a word sandwich like that, you know there's something not quite right. They said the woman came forward after seeing his face on the news and said that he beat her child. I'm going to call bollocks on that right away. It's amazing how these people sort of just come out of the woodwork and all of a sudden they've got some sort of accusation of something or other, which of course you can never defend against these sort of things. And then you try and get into the story more and you see that there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. But actually, if you follow the story properly, it's as if something happened to this child. They're trying to say that he did it, but no one really knows what's going on. Okay, let's get the sunglasses on here because it's a little bit bright. But you know, this is the problem. It really is. There's always someone that comes out the woodwork and makes an accusation, and there's just no way to defend against things like that. How do you defend against claims like that? But anyway, he's been released on a €5 million bail, but he's not allowed to return home to his home in Dubai. He has to stay in France for an indefinite amount of time. Law enforcement are going to be closely monitoring his movements. He must report to a police station twice a week. And I love the way they say, until he complies. It's like, it's obvious they're telling you in black and white what they are doing. They're forcing him to comply and give everyone's personal information, even though France has no jurisdiction over Telegram, the company, or where they're based in Dubai. But you could sort of argue, well, they have jurisdiction over the French citizens, that I guess you could say that, who actually use the platform. But this is what really got me. It said here, critics are saying the ruling is too soft and it doesn't send the right message to others such as Elon Musk. So he's obviously the next one they're going to be targeting here. One commentator stated, firstly, who is this commentator? They love saying this. An expert said, this commentator, who? Name them, right? Probably because they've made it up. This is what they've said. He should have been remanded in custody with time served coming off his final prison sentence, as Telegram, and therefore Durov as the CEO, has been complicit in the most severe of crimes against humanity, including facilitating Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. They've got to get that in there somewhere. They have to get that line in as well. How on earth he's complicit, I have no idea. The fact that he's Russian, perhaps. Oh, here it is. Durov himself is Russian and therefore partly responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent Ukrainians. What? That makes no sense. This is the nonsense that these people spit all the time. It's just pure evil, some of the things that they come out with. Now, the other thing they keep focusing on is his 100 children, and that he's, you know, fathered 100 children, he's a playboy and a Russian billionaire and all this other stuff. You know what? I looked him up, I watched a couple more of his interviews, and they're really creating this sort of image in the media of him in order to justify this arrest. But of course, the people are already starting to talk about someone who they knew nothing about before. They knew nothing, they didn't even know who he was or what he did, but now all of a sudden, everyone's against him. He didn't go out and sleep with 100 women and father 100 children, the way they're explaining it. He was a sperm donor. He helped a lot of couples to have children. I mean, the guy doesn't even drink. He doesn't drink alcohol. He doesn't even drink caffeine. You know, he doesn't even drink coffee. And just a real quick announcement then, for those of you who are taking the Cashflow program at the moment. Wow, first of all, the feedback and the testimonials have been unbelievable. Seriously. People have said it's my best program yet. It's even better than the macro stock market and the money psychology. So I think that's saying something. So thank you so much. I mean, I'm just so impressed with all the things that some of you have been creating so far. New businesses or refining your businesses. People have left their jobs already to start up on their work from home idea. Someone even said they made 5 figures this month from doing the blueprint. So it's just unbelievable what as people are achieving already. So please continue to send those testimonials in. And if you haven't started the program, I'll leave a link below. You've still got time to get that. I'm releasing module 15 on Saturday, and then next week will be the final 2 modules. So that is it. Once those final 2 modules have been released, the whole course is complete and the price goes up from there. So thanks so much. Just a quick announcement there. Now, another big story today is that US prosecutors have issued revised charges against Trump yet again. This one is for his attempts to interfere and overturn the 2020 election. They said that what he did was a very serious crime and that he caused an insurrection. They love that word, don't they? Insurrection. It's only an insurrection when it's sort of your Republicans doing it, but if it's on the other side, it's usually peaceful. Mostly peaceful protests, I think they call it these days. Just like over in the UK, Notting Hill Carnival with the unbelievable scenes there. That was a mostly peaceful event, but the protests against immigration were right-wing extremists, where one has now filled the prisons. We'll talk about the prisons very shortly. So this indictment now against Trump has been brought by Jack Smith, the special counsel, said he's accused of committing conspiracy to defraud the US, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against human rights. How on earth would that be conspiracy against human rights? That makes no sense whatsoever. And one thing I keep seeing all the time is people are saying that this is the Democrat Party that keeps going after Trump, right? I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I don't think it's just the sort of Democrats that are going after Trump, because you meet people in society, Republican, Democrat, most of the time, the majority of people are good people on either side. I would say that the people who are going after Trump or going after any candidate, you know, they went after RFK as well. These people are not specifically Democrat, I would say, although that may be how they're perceived to be. These people will go after anyone who sort of opposes the worldview that they want to create. Because remember, they want power and they want control. They're a very, very tiny elite group of people who control pretty much everything. So of course they want to control the USA and the politics in the USA, but then they divide everyone under this guise of left versus right, and people on the right are these extremists, crazies, and that the people on the left are these woke liberals, where they all want to create this society where it's just open borders and, you know, love for all and everybody lives happily ever after. I don't really think that that is quite it. It's really all about power, greed, control, and money. That's it. They just use the political spectrum to divide and make you think that you've got this enemy that you need to overcome, when really the true enemy is hidden. And often it's hidden at such a deep level that it's very hard to figure out who they are. And talking of which, RFK has now dropped out of the race and he has endorsed Trump, which has upset a lot of people. In fact, a number of states have not removed him from the ballot. They're refusing to remove him. And over in the UK, the setting free the prisoners is just getting worse and worse all the time. So the new announcement then, the UK government's early release scheme will allow prisoners to be freed after serving as little as 20% of their sentence now. So remember, it started off really high and then it came down, then it came right down to 40%. And I said, 40%? That is crazy. They're going to release the prisoners after they've only done 40% of their sentence. Well, now, because of the overcrowding, it's going to be reduced to 20%. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This scheme is set to begin on September the 10th. And they're hoping to free up 5,500 prison spaces. But the Prison Officers Association have raised massive concerns about this. And they said that this is going to have a huge impact on the public safety, and they are advising and recommending to the government that they overturn this plan for reform. They said it's going to cause a danger to people in society. And already we've got these huge issues with crime in the UK. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening. I've just caught up with Kristin here. Kristin, I know you're just walking into this cold, but I'm talking about prison crime stats in the UK. What's your experience of crime in the UK? You lived in the UK, you moved in 10 years ago, over a decade ago now. What's your experience?
When I first moved to the UK, I found it to be quite safe. I could go out and I didn't have any problems, just as you normally would in a Western world country. But I found as time went on, and obviously more recently, right before we moved here, and actually after we moved here.
To the Isle of Man.
To the island. Things have progressively gotten worse. And personally, I would never move back to the UK, to a large city.
Large cities are the worst.
Large cities are the worst. And even now when I do need to go back for work or to visit people, I'm very on high alert, nonstop. Very similar to like when I lived in LA, that sort of feeling of just constantly being afraid. And I really don't know how people, women particularly, live in these large cities in the UK nowadays. My heart goes out to them. Yeah,
well, give an example. Like what is one example that you think is difficult for women living in these big cities? Just say it. You can say.
Our personal safety of our bodies.
Okay, what Kristin's trying to say, I'm going to say it for her here. She's talking about the migrants. She's not comfortable. She didn't even want to tell the story, I don't think, there, about some of the issues that she's had with groups of guys following her, harassing her, all these other things. And this is not isolated, by the way. It gets on my nerves when people say, oh, that's an isolated incident. It's not. They just hide these statistics and all the crime around it because they don't want the general public to know. They want them to stay asleep and not know what's going on. Now, talking of people not knowing what's going on, what did I say on last week's Walk and Talk? I said that whole yacht sinking was very suspicious. I didn't buy it at all. Well, guess what? they've now agreed and they have opened a manslaughter investigation against the captain and 2 of the crew members. One was a sailor and one was an engineer on the boat. So they're trying to figure out, and the captain won't say anything, he's not talking. They're trying to figure out one thing, how 5 of the passengers, who just happened to be all the ones from the trial, ended up in this one cabin. That's where their bodies were found, unfortunately. How they all ended up in this one cabin on the other side of the boat that wasn't any of their cabins. They're sort of looking into this logically, which is great, and saying this doesn't make any sense. What were they doing there in the middle of the night in this cabin? Was the door locked? Could they get out? Like, what exactly happened? That's what they're trying to find out at the moment. Because if you think about this just with common sense, if you were going to socialize, why would you 5 of you socialize in a small little cabin? You'd socialize in the main area. It's a yacht. They have a main area, lounge area, where you can all socialize. So it doesn't make sense. There's still a lot that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, and there is a manslaughter investigation going on. And then finally, we've got to go with a crazy news article. We can't end without one. Public will get bugged for eating insects under government-backed drive. This is called the NAPIC. It's a UK government-backed national alternative protein movement that they are driving. And I've got to tell you, it is unbelievable. There's 23 million pounds of funding here they've hired this team of human behavioral psychologists to understand the reasons people feel turned off by eating insects. This will help the government to better understand the reasons people don't want to eat this, and I quote, incredible and delicious form of carbon-safe protein. Then it goes on all about climate change and global boiling and all the other stuff. We don't need to hear all that again. But it says the centre's going to provide, so this is the psychologists, we've talked about these before, they're going to provide options for the government or industry to persuade people to swap their steak for a plant-based or lab-grown alternative, such as nudging techniques. Oh yeah, we know all about that. Or public information campaigns. What? You mean like advertising, media campaigns 24/7 until it sinks into the mind of people who simply can't think for themselves? Yeah, that sort of thing. Here's another unbelievable statement. The burgeoning alternative meat industry has prompted a backlash from farmers who argue it undermines the agricultural sector. But officials state, oh, here we go, that the ag sector is the reason we're in this mess in the first place. However, progress is being made to correct this, including rewilding and legislation, which is requiring that farmers either play ball or leave the industry entirely. Of course, what a surprise that they want to continue to destroy all of the small farmers and the family farmers. They only want these massive ag companies to just own everything, where we're now getting all these GMOs, although they've rebranded that. I don't think they call it GMO anymore. So it's no surprise whatsoever that all this is going on. It's just a war against the people at every single turn. And on that note, I hope you enjoyed today's beautiful walk around the reservoir here. Here's Kristen, she's got her coat off now. She must have got really, really hot. The sun came out, okay. All right, thanks for being online, everybody. And take care, God bless you all. And we'll see you next time.